For the massively well-received trailer, which I was a little lukewarm on. I'm like, yeah, it had some good things, but I was like, it has more bad things than good. But to maintain consistency, we're getting a little bit more with Lois and a little bit more with Lex and some new TV spots and additional trailers. I mean, even calling them trailers is a little deceptive. We're talking 30 seconds, and really it's like 3 seconds of new footage that we didn't see in the trailer. So before we get really, really critical, is there some hope for Superman, no longer Superman Legacy, for whatever reason? The little bit new things we got with Lex were really good and very intriguing, especially the various theories and conjectures of what the plot will be, because we really don't have a whole good idea of what they're up to with the plot. So yeah, it's very intriguing, and definitely I'm gonna do a theory video on that. And listen, Lex does look good. So Lex looks good, Lois looks good, but it is called Superman. So the fact that Superman himself, even the Clark Kent version, looks not exactly pathetic, not pathetic, but a little underwhelming is not alarming, but it's like, yeah, that's a little weird. Even the loyal John Campea, and I'm not going to cite him. We're not going to mock John Campea. We'll do that in the future. But even John Campea was like, yeah, I mean, the way the face is sticking out and, yeah, the way the cape is flapping, it's not horrible. It's not terrible, but it's like, it looks a little bit off. And of course, the Snyder people, as far as Twitter goes, because that's where I'm most active, they're having a field day just laughing at the whole thing and just like, this is a very steep decline from Man of Steel and BVS and the Snyder Cut. And again, I am a Snyder fan, but if they did a better job, I'd tell you. But yeah, in terms of the cape and the flying, Snyder pretty much nailed it with Man of Steel. And they did very good, wise things. Like, he does not fly at first, he can only do very big jumps. And he's Superman, so these jumps are like the Hulk. So he's jumping like miles and miles, but he is jumping. But when he finally flies, he is super pumped and super happy. Whereas this version of Superman is like, I don't know, I'm just taking an afternoon stroll again. Again, apples and oranges. Man of Steel is the direct origins of Kal-El and him becoming Clark Kent, right? Him becoming Superman. With this version of Superman, he's had some time being Superman, and apparently that 1 or 2 years, he's like, yeah, I can fly now. He can fly. He can definitely fly. And again, I think the dilemma has always been they're trying to recapture the magic of the Donner films. And listen, I do love those films, and that is a real cape. You can have many issues and criticisms, but that is definitely Christopher Reeves in a cape. So we're long past those days. So obviously, we're going to have a lot of digital manipulation. I'm sure it's a real cape in a lot of shots, but this version with David, it's going to look, the word I keep using is janky. It's just going to look weird because we just have all these tools, AI, digital effects. We can manipulate the cape and Superman in different ways. And although I do defend the Flash, yeah, the Superman images there were not, again, horrifically bad, but they looked really weird with Christopher Reeves or even Henry Cavill, who's in there for like 3 seconds as a little dot. He's off flying as a little dot. So this is the problem, that we have all these tools, but I have to say Snyder used them much more wisely, and you can just go through the behind the scenes material. And again, I am not a super fanatic. I haven't gone through all of them, but Henry is very dedicated, and he goes through it saying, "Yeah, my boots were really wet when those rain scenes were done." So he put a lot of physical effort to be in the shot physically with Batman or with the Cape or with the other Kryptonians. And we're really not seeing that yet with David. So it does feel like they, not saying lazy, but they kind of took the easy way out. We're just going to focus on his face, have the cape flapping, he's happy, we're done. And listen, we had a preview of this with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And again, I gave James Gunn a lot of praise. You can go back to my review. I've not been a fan of the Guardians trilogy, but I thought number 3 is easily the best and most coherent and the strongest. But Adam Warlock was terrible in that one. I mean, that was just horrifically bad on everything. The story, the dialogue. Again, it is canonical to the comics. He was kind of a baby when he first emerged. Literally, he didn't really have much personality. But still, James Gunn doesn't always stick to the comics, so I felt that version of Warlock was just kind of inferior. I didn't like the actor doing Warlock either, so he's a good actor, but not in that. And to bring it back to Superman, again, for what they're doing in Guardians, because Guardians is pretty goofy, right? It's meant to be silly and fantastic. So the way Adam Warlock was flying and going all over the place, it looked weird, but that is that version of Warlock. I can be mature now. I prefer the older version of Warlock we got in the 1990s comics. That is me. You can prefer the James Gunn version, but yeah, we kind of saw what he was going to do with some guy with a cape flying at super speed, and it looked pretty damn silly and stupid. But again, most of Guardians visually looks really on point. The vast majority of Guardians Galaxy 3 looks very impressive, but the Adam Warlock scenes looked, yeah, very weak in comparison. Not everything was golden. I mean, I think the high evolutionary costume also looked kind of stupid and weird. However, the acting there was much better. And although I would have preferred, no nice way of putting it, the real high evolutionary, that version was very respectable. And the costume looked better at the end when he gets very ferocious and very angry. So, again, a lot of good stuff that James Gunn can do visually. That's why this is so surprising. And he's literally had a test run, and apparently all he's doing is he's adding some Mission Impossible, Scientology, Maverick, Tom Cruise stylized version of Superman, and I'm like, that's it? That's it? That's all we're gonna get? It just feels kind of like the wrong approach. And at this point, some fans are really eagerly expecting this thing, but a lot of fans are also expecting it, but to laugh at it. And I go, and again, I make up my own mind, but I'm more on the film gob side that, yeah, this looks so far really laughable with Superman himself. However, this is still early. They always keep working on these things. They keep refining the visual look and the digital look. I'm sure there are still visual artists doing more work on Superman, but it definitely will be a weird paradox if, at the end of the day, Superman gives us a very good Lex Luthor, visually, character, story wise, but Superman himself is actually pretty lacking. So it just seems a weird dilemma with the DC universe. They never quite coordinate Lex Luthor and Superman as the best they can be. And again, I will admit that although the version of Lex Luthor that Snyder gave was interesting, I mean, it is definitely very intriguing, it just felt a little off too. So I guess the best way to end this video is to say, we'll always have Smallville. And Smallville gave us a really good version of Lex and a very good version of Clark. Technically not really full on Superman until the very end. And even there, I was like, but still, for a lot of it, good Clark and Lex. But are we ever going to get back to Superman or Lex Luthor from the 1970s? Probably not. That's going to be the dynamic duo for a long time, which is not a bad thing. And again, this is the first film. I'm sure James Gunn is going to revisit Superman. So maybe the next Superman film, Superman will look like Superman instead of like a very degraded Adam Warlock cape man who looks happy as a clam, but it's like, why are you so happy? You're not even smiling. It's very strange. So yeah, thumbs down so far on the new Superman look, but it's early. These are only 3 seconds. Maybe the next 2 hours of the film will actually be good, but alarmingly, I'm not seeing yet the great Superman emerge, unfortunately.